Growing up in New York City, everything was cold and tough and relentlessly vertical. I can still recall the moment I first stepped out of the airport in Los Angeles and saw the palm fronds waving in a wide sky. I was just out of college, here to work as a screenwriter, and suddenly everything would be possible. Even now, I draw energy from my art from the trees and the vibrant mix of people in LA. Even in enraging times, I still feel encouraged to explore. Each of my series risks an experimental approach to painting. I explore both the substrate, rice paper, silk, canvas, wood, plastics, mirrors, and the tools, ink, stains, paint, charcoal, wire, string. Ranging from abstract to figurative, and from painting to assemblage, the works all play with the veil between seen and unseen, questioning what is real while responding to our current time. I did a series called The Long Thread that contrasts silk with rougher textures of string, twine, and rope. The cycle of life emerged as themes as those pieces evolved beyond paintings into large textile wall hangings. But starting in 2016, current issues became inescapable. A series titled Rhythms intertwines newspaper headlines with EKG rhythms of heartbeats. I asked, what's happening in the world that makes the heart clench? I thought about the fear and hostility in our current political and social landscapes, as well as what makes the heart release. This series extended beyond heartbeats to waves of sound that make similar rhythms, as do phases of nature. That brings us to my 2017 series Sight, and I'll tell you about a few pieces in it. Sight is a work of insight, meaning that each of the pieces in this series is something that is trying to make you think. See and think about what you have seen and what you haven't seen. In this case, yes, of course, it's sort of a suggestion of an eye, but as with many of them in this particular series, it's got a reflective mirrored back surface. So you're seeing it, in a way, it's seeing you. In the middle of the iris is a gauge which says caution on it. It's a speed gauge. And as in many pieces here on one level, it looks texturally interesting. This is mixed media. It's on transparent plexiglass, but it's not just the surface. It's also what it's saying beneath. The title of this is In a Dark Time, the Mind Begins to See. It's a quote from the poet Theodor Roethke. Now, look at the expressions on the women's faces here. It's not just about, yes, the mind begins to see, but it's also about the reaction of pain and horror. You can read into it what things in the world events today are causing this kind of scream. But beyond the grief and the panic and the screaming, behind them, on the second layer of plexiglass, is light. This is again the mirrored surface. Behind this, there are two layers of plexiglass, and the underlying layer is reflecting through the darkness. This is an instrument of alternate dimensions. It teases you to think about the dimensionality, not just of three layers of plexiglass here, but sight. In the center of it is a diagrammatic abstraction of an eyeball. It's an eyeball's lens and where the image is refracted. Around it are these drawings of neurons, but if you look more closely, there are clock parts. There are hands of clocks over there. There are pieces of hardware. This is wiring. And it's asking largely about the interface of the human biology and our mechanical world It's asking also about where does human nature end and all of the things that are transhuman start. Where's the borderline between us and the things we make? This asks, what future do you see? There are 2 layers of plexiglass here that are not attached. They're put together in the frame, but they're not attached. And there's actually space between them. If you were here, you could see the dimensionality of it. On the first layer, in the front, is this gritty stuff. This is done with charcoal and inks and paint, and most of all, newspaper clippings, headlines. These headlines have comments about climate change, all of them. And there's one that's repeated over and over again. It says, we're hurtling towards the worst CO2 levels the Earth has seen in over 200 million years. And that occurs over and over and over and over and over and over again. With it are all these other suggestions, fears, hazards ahead, any number of other comments that are coming from this dump of grit here. On the top says, eyes on the future. There are many other questions here that are straight out of headlines in terms of devastating anxiety off California's coast. Many other suggestions here of the troubles. Above the darkest part are 8 lessons, and here is something that looks like, I don't know, are they mountains in the back? And then even further back? Or are those fumes that are coming out of all this garbage? But look up here, blue skies. And the second level of plexiglass behind this one is all painted in pretty blue skies. So it says, it doesn't have to be this. It says, that exists, that's up there, you can have it. Other series offer a spiritual dimension to place and time. Overall, I intend my work to move beyond external reference and materials to a philosophical sense that suggests transcendence.